You're listening to Love and Libido with me, your host, Dr. Emily Jamia. The goal of this podcast is to educate and inspire. My hope is that you will learn tools to create connection and cultivate passion, both within yourself and in your relationships. Here's what's coming up on today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Today, I am going to answer 2 subscriber questions. The first has to do with sex during pregnancy, and the second has to do with coping with erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation with a partner who isn't really willing to collaborate to make sex better. And then finally, I'm going to share a subscriber-submitted story about the effects of poor sex education and his comfort in initiating sex. Let's get started. So our first question came in anonymously through the website. Here it goes. We found out I was pregnant 4 months ago. Since I have become pregnant, my boyfriend has not had an orgasm during intercourse. He can reach orgasm with us doing other things, but for some reason, not when having sex. We used to be fine and it was never a problem. What could be wrong? Okay, thank you first so much for sharing your question. There are so many nuances of sex during pregnancy. A lot of people assume that women may be more affected because they're the ones that are pregnant, and certainly they are to varying degrees, but assuming you're in a heterosexual relationship and you have a male partner, men can be affected too. And so my first question to you would be, what are his feelings about you being pregnant? My first thought is that maybe he feels a little uncomfortable with the idea that you have a baby growing inside of you and he's ejaculating very close to that area where the baby is growing. Some people get kind of hung up on this. I'm also wondering if maybe it would be helpful for him to go to a doctor's visit with you so that he can hear straight from your doctor about sex during pregnancy, assuming you don't have any reason why you shouldn't have sex during pregnancy. Sex can be really healthy during pregnancy. I always encourage couples to maintain an active sex life during pregnancy, assuming there's no limitations by their doctor, but you can continue to do most things during pregnancy that you were doing before you got pregnant. And intercourse and ejaculating during intercourse is certainly a part of that. And so I just wonder if maybe he heard from the doctor, him or herself, that, that might make a difference. The other thought is if he, for whatever reason, just can't get over the fact that you're pregnant and it's just making him too uncomfortable to think about ejaculating inside of you, then this may be an opportunity to adjust the kinds of things that you're doing sexually. And I hear you saying that he can have an orgasm doing other things, and I'm really glad to hear that. I am a huge proponent of the importance of adaptability when it comes to sex. You will hear me talk about this all the time. I have a whole module about it in my online workshop, but having a willingness to adapt to ever-changing circumstances is so important. And it may be that just while you're pregnant, that you do other things that help him have an orgasm or reach climax that don't include intercourse, if for some reason that's just something he can't really get behind or doesn't feel comfortable with. I definitely think it's worth exploring. I think the more you talk about what's going on and create space to hear his feelings, the better off you'll be and the more likely that eventually he'll feel more comfortable with it. But if for some reason he just can't, then that's okay too. And it may just be that while you're pregnant, maybe you limit that aspect of your sexual interaction and instead use it as an opportunity to try new things. And hopefully once you have the baby and things go back to normal, that can be reincorporated as a part of your regular routine. Another final point I want to make is that it's so important that you have a very neutral response when he maybe expresses frustration about his inability to ejaculate when you're having intercourse. A lot of times the determining factor about whether an occasional hiccup remains just a hiccup versus evolving into a full-fledged dysfunction or larger issue is the partner's response. And so the worst thing you could do is make him feel bad about it or shame him for it. And I can tell just from the tone of your email that that's not happening. But just for anyone else who might be listening, I think that's so important to keep in mind. So I wish you the best of luck with your pregnancy, and I hope that some of this advice helps. Good luck. Our next question came in anonymously through the website as well. Here it goes. I have erectile dysfunction coupled with very low sex drive and premature ejaculation. I feel frustrated when I feel like I can't make my wife wet and ready. She never wants to use lube either. I get soft when I'm trying to put my penis inside a dry vagina. Sometimes I have difficulty getting aroused in the first place. Even imagining women with perfect bodies can't get me fully hard sometimes. I've started to use pills for help, but there is no medical reason I should need pills and would rather not use them. Sometimes pills don't work either. Okay, this is a great question. So first and foremost, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I know that a lot of people can probably relate to what you're sharing. Okay, so let's hit this one issue at a time because there is actually a lot packed into this very short question. You begin by saying you have erectile dysfunction, low sex drive, and premature ejaculation. So it's important to know that a lot of factors can contribute to our desire to have sex. If you're experiencing any kind of dysfunction or frustration during the sexual experience, the chances that you're gonna wanna keep doing it go down. And the biggest issue I'm hearing is that you have a partner who isn't really willing to collaborate with you to make for a better sexual experience. I hear that that's creating a lot of frustration for you and really affecting your arousal. It's not, I think a lot of people, both men and women, but really women in particular, can have this idea that men should be able to get an erection whenever, with whomever, and under any condition. And it's so important to know that the body does not work like that. And I hear that it's frustrating to you and maybe kind of a turnoff to try to enter her when she doesn't feel very wet or aroused. And the fact that she's not really actively participating during the experience can also affect your arousal. That's probably leading to your erectile difficulties. By the way, I really don't like the word dysfunction. I think that difficulty is a much gentler word. And truthfully, if you're able to get erections when you masturbate, which I assume you are because you say there's no medical reason why you need pills, then you don't really have a full-fledged erectile dysfunction. Now, you could technically be diagnosed with what we call situational erectile dysfunction, meaning that it's only happening in the situation when you're trying to have partnered sex versus solo sex. But even then, I think because we can identify clear reasons that are external and contextual as opposed to something physical, that difficulty really is just a better word. So I'm going to say erectile difficulty from now on. So you've got this erectile difficulty, which is probably creating some anxiety because a lot of people have anxiety when they're unable to get an erection, and anxiety can then lead to premature ejaculation. Or sometimes if you do get an erection, you want to make sure you don't lose it, or you're so afraid that you're going to lose it that you come too quickly. And so I think that if we're looking at what's causing what here as kind of them happening in like a chain of events, you have a partner who's not very actively participating or doing much to help with your arousal, which is causing frustration, which is probably leading to your erectile difficulty, which is creating anxiety, which is leading to premature ejaculation, and the whole thing is kind of making you not want to have sex. So I think that's what's going on. Now, you say that she never wants to use lube either. A lot of times people assume that when you use lube, it has to go like around the outside of the vagina. But I wonder if she'd maybe be more comfortable with you applying it to your penis. That could actually make a really big difference. If you liked this video, drop me a like and subscribe below. Share with a friend who might find it interesting. You can also listen to this in podcast form anywhere podcasts are streamed by searching for Love and Libido with Dr. Emily Jamia. Finally, follow me across all social media channels at Dr. Emily Jamia for daily emotional and physical intimacy tips.